Hello, my name is Dennis, and welcome to my trailer park white trash mobile home kitchen. I really do live in a mobile home, in a trailer park, and this is my kitchen. I'm going to be making something sweet today. This is an Italian sweet fried fritter that I'm going to call calzoni. I've seen a half dozen different names for these things. They look really delicious. If you're familiar with calzones, think of these as little calzonis. They're stuffed with a ricotta, a sweetened ricotta cheese with citrus in it, very much like my Roma cheesecake, which is also delicious. And that recipe is already on the website. So let's get into the ingredients I'm going to be using today for making these calzoni. I'm going to be using 1/2 cup, or about 118 milliliters of whole milk. 1 packet of active dry yeast, that's about 2 1/4 to 2 1/2 teaspoons of dry yeast. 1/4 cup, 50 grams of granulated sugar. 2 1/4 cups, 11 ounces, 312 grams of unbleached flour. You can use all-purpose flour, bread flour. It's not going to matter a lot for this recipe. I have 2 large eggs. I'm going to be using the yolks inside of the dough, and I'm going to be saving the egg whites to make an egg wash. 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I'm using my clarified butter. 1/2 teaspoon vanilla extract. 1/4 teaspoon finely grated lemon zest. That seems like a very small amount of lemon zest. I might use as much as half of the zest from this lemon. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. 2/3 of a cup, 6 ounces, 170 grams ricotta cheese. 1 teaspoon confectioner's or powdered sugar. Finely grated zest from 1 whole orange, and then finally about 1/4 or 1 liter of vegetable oil for frying. I heated my milk up. You want to get it to a temperature of between 105 degrees and 115 degrees Fahrenheit. What's that? That's about 41 to 46 Celsius. That's ready. Yeast likes a nice warm place to get active. So there's my yeast, and this is about 1/4 teaspoon of the sugar. And I'm going to stir that in and wait about 5 to 10 minutes for this yeast to foam. If it foams up well, that means it's alive. If it doesn't foam up at all, it means your yeast is no good. Go out and buy fresh yeast and start again. So there is my yeast, nice and foamy. That's beautiful. So my next step now is to transfer this to a mixer bowl and start adding my flour. I'm going to transfer my milk and yeast mixture to this mixer bowl. I'm going to do the kneading today with a stand mixer rather than by hand. You can certainly do this by hand, but it's summer, it's warm, it's humid. I don't feel like working hard today. And then I'm going to add about 1 cup of my flour here. And then stir that in. This is what's called making a sponge. It's a really soft, wet liquid. Right? Like that. So now I want to let this, I'm going to cover this with plastic, and I'm going to let this sit for about an hour to let that yeast really get going, and it'll roughly double in volume. It's kind of hard to judge at this point, but this is the first rising, the rising of the sponge. If you have one of these really nice micro plane graters, it's very easy to grate the skin off of a piece of citrus fruit. What you basically want is just the yellow or the orange part. You don't want that white part underneath, because that's bitter. The pith, I think they call that. You want just the zest. And that'll probably be enough right there. My sponge has risen now for just over an hour. It rose up so much it collapsed on itself and fell back down again. I have my other ingredients to go in there. I'm a bit nervous about how much moisture I have in there for another 1.25 cups yet of flour to go in there. So I put some warm water in a little beaker. If I need to add some water to this, I will. So the first thing I want to do is get my yolks in there. My butter. This is either clarified butter or unsalted butter. A lot of bakers like to work with unsalted butter because they can control the amount of salt. You never know how much salt the creameries are going to put in their butter. And then my lemon zest. Okay, and then I'm going to turn this on and mix this together at number 2 setting until this is blended together, and then I'm going to start working in the sugar. I have 2 tablespoons of sugar, of that entire quantity of sugar, to go in there along with the salt and the remainder of the flour. As I suspected, the liquid measurement was off. So again, this was one of those published recipes that was never tested. It took an extra 1/4 cup of liquid to bring this dough together into a sticky dough ball. So now I'm going to put that back in there. I'm going to knead this for another 5 minutes just to get that smooth, and then I'll be ready to let this rise for its second rise. I buttered a bowl well. I'm going to move my dough now, which has a wonderful moist consistency, just the tiniest bit sticky. I'm going to put that in that bowl, and then my Ziploc bag here that I used to butter the bowl, I'm just going to press the top of that with some butter. Okay, cover this and let this rise for at least an hour, maybe 2. I want to see this double in bulk. I'm going to put this in a warm place. My favorite place is on top of the refrigerator, and that should be fine. That recipe, by the way, came from the website of this magazine, La Cucina Italiana. I would approach these recipes with a fair bit of caution because they obviously don't test all their recipes before they publish them. My yeast dough now has been rising for an hour, so that's pretty much ready now. So, therefore, I want to start combining my filling ingredients. So there's my ricotta cheese, the zest from an entire orange, my powdered sugar, and my vanilla. And I want to just combine this until it's well combined and smooth. You can, if you want, taste this and sweeten it more. This is not going to make a very sweet filling. You could make this sweeter if you want. Let me get out my tasting spoon and see what that tastes like. Barely any sugar at all in that. Again, this recipe, I don't know what they were thinking. 1 teaspoon of confectioner's sugar. I'm going to add a tablespoon of white sugar to this. There, and forget about the confectioner's sugar. That was gross. That was just a terrible flavor. Okay, again, my tasting spoon. Put a little bit on there. That's a very mildly sweet filling. You could even put 2 tablespoons in there, but I'm going to use just the 1. Okay, I'm taking a little ball of the dough, rolling it between my hands, shaping it so that it's a little bit bigger than a golf ball, and then start pressing this flat with your fingers. You want to press it into a circle that's about 4 inches, or what's that, 10 centimeters wide. spoon a little bit of this filling on 1/2 of the dough, just like so. And then I made an egg wash out of the egg white, and I added a little bit of water to it. Fold this over like so, and then pinch it well, making sure to get the air out. You don't want too much air in there. Okay, and then if you want to fancy that edge up a little bit, you can take a fluted cutter and just go around the edge with the fluted cutter. And finally, another thing I've seen done is take a fork and stitch it. I shouldn't say finally, I should say penultimately, because there's one more step. So that's our crescent right there. The recipe that I'm working from says to turn this over, paint one of the corners with your egg wash, roll this around your finger, and then overlap it, sealing where the egg wash is, sealing it together to form this little ring. And that's what's going to get deep fried. So I have the rest of these to combine, and then I'll be heating up my oil and starting to fry these. I've heated oil up to between 375 degrees and 400 degrees. I'm going to lower these in there now. A few at a time, maybe 4 or 5 at a time. And you want to cook these until they're a nice brown color on the outside, just golden brown. You're going to turn these occasionally. Watch your temperature, make sure it doesn't drop too low. You can see that one is browning nicely already there. Look at that, beautiful. I put my sugar in a sprinkler here. You just want to sprinkle those nicely with sugar as soon as they come out of the oil. Let them cool, and those will be ready to eat. So there they are on a platter. I dusted them with a little bit of powdered sugar to give them a little bit more presentation value. My last step is to see how good these taste. There they are. I put a few on a plate for myself. I made myself a fresh cup of coffee. And now I get to taste these and see how good they taste. Let's do this one here. Wow. Okay. Pleasantly light, not overly sweet. I can taste the citrus in that ricotta filling. That is really, really good. That's a nice little treat. So, excuse me. I'm going to go enjoy my calzone with my cup of coffee. For a printable PDF copy of this recipe with step-by-step photographs, visit the White Trash Cooking website and look on the home page or in the recipe archive.